Welcome to our video. I can't believe the month of June is over. We are halfway through the year. What? So the breakdown of the month is I read 1 ebook, 3 physical books, 4 audiobooks, and 1 manga. I read my first manga this month. And I feel like I'm going to have negative things to say about every book I read this month, and I don't think it's the books. I really think it was me, because June was quite the month. We had so much going on in our household. We went out of town for a weekend, which was actually a lot of fun, and I do have a vlog coming for that. Hopefully, finally, it's been a long time. But as a result of that beach trip, I got second-degree burns on my feet, and our dog had 2 seizures and is now on seizure medicine. I have been pet sitting for more of this month than I haven't, and we had a death in the family. So it's been a busy month, but I still managed to read 9 books. So let's just get right into the books. So the first physical book I read in June was one that was a spillover from May, as is every month, and that was Magnolia Parks, The Long Way Home by Jessa Hastings. This is the 3rd book in the Magnolia Parks world. If you don't know, Magnolia Parks is about these socialites in London. They're these rich 20-something-year-olds, and it's very, very toxic. It's very drama-filled. Their love is not the kind of love you want because it's so toxic. All they do is hurt each other. But it's addicting. So you read the first Magnolia Parks book, and then you read Daisy Hates, and then you read Magnolia Parks Like Going Home, and then you read Daisy Hates and Good Undoing, and then there's another Magnolia Parks book. And I really liked the Daisy Hates book a lot more than Magnolia Parks. So I was reading this book so I could get to the next Daisy Hates book. But reading this book made me realize I think I like these characters. I don't like what they do. I do not agree with the choices they make, but there's just something about Magnolia and BJ. They really do love each other, and I don't understand how they can hurt each other with how much they love each other, but they love each other. And so I actually really enjoyed this book. I don't even know if this one was like more toxic than the first one or not, because it's like hard to judge. That's the thing I didn't really like about the first one, is how toxic it was. But like, I don't know, I think I'm just like really invested in the characters now that I just like them, and I don't know, I just want to read about them. Like, I don't know, but I really enjoyed this book, and the ending was insane. I was not expecting that. I knew something was gonna happen because I was like, oh, these books don't have happy endings. They have something that like rips your heart out, and it just ripped my heart out in a way that I wasn't expecting. And so yeah, I'm looking forward to reading the next Daisy Hates book and then the next Magnolia Parks book, because I need to know what happens next. And the next Magnolia Parks book is the last one for Magnolia and BJ, which is insane. But yeah, I think this book is a 4.5. It's kind of hard for me to say that because it's like, I don't agree with the toxicity of it, but like also I was like so hooked reading this book. So I'm thinking 4.5. The next physical book I finished was Romancing Mr. Bridgerton by Julia Quinn, and this is the 4th Bridgerton book. I know we're all thinking about Bridgerton right now with the 3rd season coming out, and that is what sparked me to get back into the books. So in May, I read the 3rd book, which is Benedict's story, and then in June, I read the 4th book, which is Colin's story. They did skip a book to get to this season, which if you watch the show, you understand why they wanted to skip to Colin's story, and I personally think Benedict's story is next based off the little teaser at the end of season 3. I think Benedict's story is next, and then they'll probably get to Eloise because Eloise's is the 5th book. But anyway, back to this book. If you don't know, the Bridgerton series is about this family in the Regency era. The Bridgertons, there's 8 kids. Each book follows a kid getting married and like courting and like everything that goes along with that in these days. And yeah, so I have mixed feelings about this book because Colin is like a gray area for me, because at some points, like, he was a dick, and other points he was like really sweet, and I just have such mixed feelings about him. And I will say, like, I started watching the show after I read the book, and I was like, oh, they changed him. Like, by the way, this review is gonna get a little bit into the show, not spoilers, just meaning that I'm probably gonna review the 3rd season and the 4th book at the same time, and that's just how it's gonna be. But anyway, started watching the show, and they changed the way they wrote him in the beginning. Like, going into the show, I heard people say that like Colin gave them the ick, and he totally does in the show. He is so icky in the show, because in the book, Colin is written to be very charming and like everyone likes him, but like everyone likes him, you know, it doesn't matter. It's not like all the young ladies like him, like old ladies like him and men like him. He's just a charming guy. But in the show, they wrote him to be like flirty and sleazy, and I was like, that's not the Colin I like. But then later in the series, he reminded me of this Colin, but also he's a dick in the show and the book. Like, he just has these moments where you're like, why are you treating Penelope that way? But on the other hand, I'm glad he finally realized Penelope's worth. So like, I don't know. Mixed feelings, but I definitely ate this book up. I did enjoy their book. These books are like not my favorite, but I will continue reading them. I think I gave this one 4 stars, which is what I gave all the other books. They're like good, but like not the best. And yeah, I really want to get to the next book, which is Eloise's book, but I try to buy these books used because I don't care enough to buy them new. And right now, you're not going to be able to find used copies of them because everyone's buying them. But in a few months, I'm sure I'll be able to find the next book used because then people will be tired of it and getting rid of them. And that's when I will strike. The next physical book I read was Beach Read, which I did start in the vlog for the beach weekend. I just didn't get very far in the vlog. Yeah, so this is Emily Henry's first book. It's not her first book. She used to write books, but then if I remember correctly, she kind of like, those books were like different than the book she writes now. So this is the first one that she started in like 2020 that like matches the rest of the books she's been reading, if that makes sense. But this is about a writer named January that inherits her dad's beach house. So she moves there for the summer to clean it out and sell it. And she's trying to write a book because she really needs to sell a book. And her neighbor is like her like nemesis from college, who's also a writer. And they're both kind of like in a writing, I was about to say writer slump. I guess it's a writer's block. It's a book slump. But anyway, so they decide to like switch genres, and she's gonna write a literary fiction, which is his genre, and he's gonna write a romance, which is her genre. And then it's like a love story. And this is one of the books where I feel like it's a me thing because everyone loves this book. I've never seen a bad review about it, and I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. And I don't know if it's because I read it like after Happy Place and Funny Story, because people said with like Happy Place, her writing kind of took a shift. And I don't know if it's because like I read it after those, so like those books just seem better in my opinion, but this was just good to me. And that's why I think it's a me thing and not the book thing. I think I was just not in a good place when I was reading this book because I said I had a lot going on this month. I read most of this book while my feet were severely burned and I was healing from that. And I just feel like, I don't know, I feel like it's me. I feel like I need to reread this book next summer and maybe I'll like it better. But I did really enjoy the characters and I enjoyed their banter, and I liked, you know, Emily Henry puts a lot of backstory into her characters and they're going through something that's not just the romance. They both have stuff going on in their lives outside of that. So like I enjoyed all of that. I feel like this book was like a little bit wild with the other stories it was handling. Like cults are talked about in this book. Which is just like, it's a fluffy, it's a beach read. But anyway, yeah, so like I did like this book. I settled on 4 stars for it. I really do think I need to reread it in like a year to see if I change my opinion, because I think it has a lot of potential to be better than I think it is. So I really think it's a me thing. But I am going to continue reading her books. I think I have 2 more to read. So while I'm on the topic of physical books, I will talk about the manga I read this month, which was the first volume of One Piece. I don't want to try to say the author's name. Ichiro Oda? I'm sorry. But this is volume 1 of the whole series, but it's also volume 1 in East Blue, which is where the series starts. One Piece is about this pirate, Monkey D. Luffy, and he like grew up loving pirates, and he was like, I'm gonna be a pirate one day. And then I think he's like 17 when this book starts, and he's like, I'm gonna be king of the pirates one day, and I'm gonna find the One Piece, which is the treasure that every pirate wants. It obviously started as a manga, but there's also an anime that is over 1,000 episodes. It's been going on since the year I was born. One Piece is as old as me. It is 25 years old. There are 1,000 episodes. Netflix also came out with a live action show. I don't know if it was this year or last year, and I watched that first actually, and I really did like the live action. I was kind of surprised because it looked like it would be bad, but it wasn't. So then I started watching the anime, and I don't watch much TV. I'm only 18 episodes in. I don't hate it, but anyway, so my friends are like, hey, read the manga, maybe you'll get farther in it. Because by the way, if you didn't see my birthday vlog, me and my boyfriend and our friend group cosplayed as One Piece characters when we went to GalaxyCon in March. And so I feel like I should like get more into the series because I literally dressed as a character from it. But yeah, this is, like I said, this is my first manga, and I have read graphic novels before, and the reason I don't read them very often is because I have a very bad habit of just reading the words and just like skimming over the pictures, and that's literally half the content. That's like the point of reading stuff like this, is the pictures. And so I was like, I finished this in one sitting, by the way, and I texted my friends. I was like, hey, I finished it. I feel like the pictures don't really depict action very well. And then I flipped back through it and I was like, wait, I just need to slow down. Like, I just need to read it slower. And the reason I read it so fast is because like I have already watched both the live action and the anime of this story. And so it's like I know everything that was happening. But I think I just going forward, I need to slow down and like actually look at the pictures. But I will say Luffy is so funny in writing. Like, reading it in words on paper, I was laughing out loud. Like, he's just so funny. But yeah, it's cute, and I do look forward to reading more of these books. I'm borrowing the box set from my friend, so these books will not be on display on my shelves because I'm borrowing it. But let me show you how big the box set is. And I know you can't tell in a video, but this is so heavy, okay? Look at this. It's so many. It is so many. And this is just the East Blue, which is like the first part. And I have read 1. So it will take me a while to get through these, but I mean, I feel like they'd be good like in between books, you know, like what's the word I'm looking for? Palate cleanser. I think they'd be a good palate cleanser in between novels. So we'll see how long it takes me to get through these. So those are the physical books and manga that I read. I will talk about the ebook I read next, which was one I started so far back early in the year, like February or something, because I read my ebooks and audiobooks from the library. So sometimes I lose them and they get returned, and then I have to like put a hold on them and like wait for them to come in again. And so I didn't finish this book. It got returned. I went to check it out again, and it just wasn't available for my library anymore. And I guess they like lost the rights to it and had to like renew it or something. And I was like, notify me if you get it back. And then like 3 months later, it was like, hey, we have this book in. Do you want to read it? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I read the last 25% in June. But basically, this is the last book in a series that I read in 2020. And I didn't particularly like this series, but I felt like I wanted to, you know, like finally finish it. And so this series is about this guy named Dan that does this like summer program at a college, because like he's in high school. And then it's a college that used to be at like a sanitarium. And so there's like weird stuff happening, and there's like ghosts and just like suspicious stuff and like whatever. Like, I don't even know. Going into this book, I just knew I really wasn't gonna like it because I didn't love the first 2 books. I think I gave them like 3 or 3.5 stars back in 2020, which I kind of got back into reading in like 2019, 2020. So this was still the beginning of me reading to give these ratings. But anyway, going into it, I was like, I don't have high hopes. This one, I feel like I did like a little bit better than the other ones because the first 2 books took place at the college, and then this book took place somewhere else because they were like, they've graduated high school now. Like he made friends, guys, and they graduated from high school and they're going to like separate colleges. So they were like on a road trip to take one of his new friends to live with his uncle in New Orleans. And then stuff starts happening related to the stuff that happened at the college, because there's like stuff with like Dan's like parents, because he's adopted, and like all the stuff. And it was just like so like not plausible, like that they're not even in the same state that that college was in, but they're finding clues related to that college. And like they're on a road trip and they stop in some town and find stuff related to it, and then they get to New Orleans and like the biggest plot that's gonna happen is in New Orleans. Like, what are the chances like all this stuff is connected? Like, it was just so out there. I was just like, this is a little stupid, and I just kind of like lost interest, but like I wanted to finish it, and it was like fine. Also, it is a YA series, so like maybe if I was like 14 reading it, I would think differently. I am an adult, so I'm trying to keep that in my mind. So like it's in like the 3-star range. Like, it wasn't terrible, but like I feel like it could have been so much better. But another thing I don't like about these books is I feel like they're trying to copy Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children and how that series does pictures in them. And I love Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. It's a very good series, and the thing about Miss Peregrine is that this is related, I promise, is that they use old photographs in that book because the kids in the book are from a long time ago. Like, they're stuck in time loops and they do not age. So they're literally these kids from different decades and centuries and stuff. And so using these old photographs, it's showing you, and it's not just old photographs. These kids are like, it's like a kid floating off the ground, or like a kid with like bees coming out of his mouth. Like, it's these pictures, like these genuine old photos that are like, how did they do this back then before Photoshop? It's really cool old photos that he puts in his books, and it's related to what you're reading, and it's like so cool. So this series tried to do that, and it just didn't fit. It was just out of place. It was just old photos that he's wrote into the book somehow. Like, it would just be like, they walked down the hall and there was some old mask, and then it'd be like, old mask. Or sometimes there would just be pictures and it was not related to what you're reading at all. It was just a creepy picture to try to make this book feel like horror when it was not horror. Even as a 14-year-old, I don't think I would have been scared of this book. It's really not horror, it's mystery, if anything. So yeah, I don't love this series, but I'm glad I finally finished it. I did find out that there's like another book. I don't know if it's like a prequel, short story, like I don't know, but I'm not reading it because I just don't care enough to finish it. So, audiobooks. Don't remember what I read. So the first audiobook that I finished this month was the 4th Percy Jackson book, which is Battle of the Labyrinth. And basically Percy Jackson is a middle grade series about like children of the Greek gods. So Percy Jackson is a child of a Greek god. So I can't really get into specifics of this book, being that it's the 4th one out of 5. Actually, no, there's more books now, guys. He published more books after like a decade. Haven't read them yet. But anyway, so basically they have to go into this, they have to go on every book has a quest. Every book has like, they go on a quest and it's an adventureful book or whatever. So they go on a quest in a labyrinth to stop something, find something, do all this stuff, you know. So it's adventure filled, like all of them are. And I don't know, I feel like I zoned out a lot while listening to this book, which is one of the reasons I only pretty much listen to YA books for audiobooks, because I just zone out. Like I said, I just had so much going on this month. I just feel like I was zoning out a lot while reading this book, and I just felt like I was missing a lot of stuff. But I know that I like the series because I read it when I was younger, so nothing against the book. I had a lot going on and I was zoning out, and by the time I was like, you know, I don't really know what's happening, I was almost near the end, so I just finished it and I'm gonna read the next one. The next audiobook I read was Same Time Next Summer, which is my first book by this author, and I've seen people say a lot of positive things about her book, so again, maybe it was just what was going on in my life, but I also wasn't a big fan of this one. It's about this girl whose family has like a beach house, and so they used to go there every summer, and she like had like a thing with the neighbor, and then it obviously ended badly, and then, you know, fast forward a decade or whatever, and she's 30 and she's engaged, you know, she's like lives in the city, and they're going back to her family's beach house to visit because they're looking at the area to decide if they want to get married there. So she runs into her old neighbor from when she was kids. Does it feel like a Hallmark movie? Because it felt like a Hallmark movie. And don't get me wrong, I like Hallmark movies. They're not good, but I like them. They're entertaining. And that's just kind of how I felt about this book. Like, you know, I was entertained, but there's a lot of things about it that I just didn't particularly like. And it could be like a personal preference. Like, if you've watched a Hallmark movie, you know the plot of all of them is someone from big city goes to small town. There's gray lines when it comes to cheating, and then they end up breaking up with their city sweetheart. Like, that's every Hallmark movie, and that's what happened in this book. And I just don't like cheating plots, even if it's in the gray and it doesn't really happen, but there are feelings there. Like, I just don't like it. It gives me the ick. And another thing I didn't really like about this book is it's like they knew each other when they were kids. Like, they grew up together every summer. They knew each other very well as kids and as teenagers. And of course, when they were dating, they were talking during the year too. So they knew each other very well. So the love they felt for each other as teenagers was definitely genuine. But fast forward 10, 15 years, whatever, how old they are now, they don't know each other anymore. And I'm not saying that they can't love each other, because obviously people can grow and still love each other even if they're at different points in their lives. But like the connection they felt when they like started seeing each other again, like they were like hadn't seen each other in 10 years and they just like were like this again, you know, like it just felt weird. Like you don't know each other anymore, you know, like I don't know. It just felt weird. So I just had problems with this book, and parts of it gave me the ick. And it wasn't like a bad book. Like, I did enjoy listening to it. It did entertain me. The vibes were there. I did feel chemistry between them. There was just things I didn't like about it. And yeah, I will probably give this author's books another chance because I didn't dislike the writing. It was just like, that just gives me the ick. So... And then the last audiobook I read in June was The Rise of 9, which is the 3rd book in the I Am Number 4 series. I don't know the name of the like actual name of the series. How do I describe this? It's about aliens. It's basically about aliens. Basically, there was this planet and this other planet like attacked them, and so these children were like evacuated from that planet and they were sent to Earth to like grow up and like practice with their like abilities and then be able to fight back the evil planet and like take back their planet is the best way I'm gonna describe it. So I There was a movie like when I was a kid, and I really liked the movie. It probably, looking back, it probably wasn't good, but I liked it when I was like 12. So I read the first 2 books back then, and I just felt like I just wasn't understanding it, so I stopped the series. But I reread them like last year or something to try to get back into it, and like I like them, but like I don't know. And then when I was at the beach, I was staying at my friend's house, and we were staying in her sister's room, and her sister had like a bookcase, and it turns out her sister was like obsessed with that series. And I talked to them over FaceTime while I was there, and I was like, oh yeah, I saw your bookcase. And they were like, oh, you have to read I Am Number 4 series. So I decided to give the third book a chance, and like I said, I had a lot going on this month. I feel like I was just zoning out a lot while reading this book. So I didn't dislike it, but I just felt like I didn't know what was going on. And I felt like there was a lot of action in this book. Like, and I know like we're getting farther in the series, so obviously there's going to be a lot of action as the plot builds up to like the final whatever. But I just like every chapter had like action and fighting, and I don't really like reading about action and fighting, especially like listening to it. And it was like every chapter, it's like every twist and turn there was a fight, and I was just like, I want more plot than action. Like I want to hear them like investigating and trying to figure things out, and like talking to each other, and like building relationships with each other, because like all the kids, by the way, like all the kids grew up separately, but they're like trying to find each other now. I want to see them get to know each other, and like I just want more of like that part and not as much fighting. And maybe that was just what this book was about, and maybe the next book will have more of what I'm looking for, so I do plan on continuing it. But for this book specifically, I was just like, they're just fighting. Like they were just like, the bad guys were just there all the time, and they were fighting them all the time, and I just wanted something more than that. But again, I'm just like so out of it this month that it might just be me. So I'm editing, and I realized that I totally lied, and I had one more audiobook that I read that I counted in the count but did not talk about, and that was The Statistical Probability of Love at First Sight. And it was just a short little YA book about this girl who's traveling to London to go to her dad's wedding, and she meets this guy on the plane, and it's like love at first sight. And I knew I wouldn't really like this book that much going into it, just because of like love at first sight being in the title. But I also just didn't really like the main character. I mean, it's a YA book, she's a teenager, so obviously I'm an adult, but she was just annoying. And I didn't like the decisions she was making and the way she thought about things. And there's like a whole plot line like with her dad, and like how he left her mom and how he's getting remarried. And I just didn't really like the way that whole plot went. Not like it was written badly, because I feel like it was written realistic to how a teenager would react. And I don't know. It was just petty in my opinion, and annoying. And she barely knew this guy that she met on the plane, and she was like making like big decisions based on him. Like, I don't know. I just didn't really like this book. It was definitely like a stupid little YA book that maybe I would have liked when I was younger. I definitely did not like it as an adult. So that was the last audiobook that I read in June. So those are all the books I finished this month. I did have a DNF, like a hard DNF. So another ebook that I honestly was reading for like 2 months on and off. It was another book that I owned and decided to read as an ebook, and that is Mistress by James Patterson. And this is my first adult James Patterson book I've read. I read his Maximum Ride series when I was growing up, which is a YA kind of like a fantasy series about these kids that were like operated on and are half bird. They have like wings. I love that series growing up. It's one of the series I credit to getting me into reading in the first place. I have never read his adult books, and I don't know if I'll read any more after this one. So this book is about, the main character is this guy, and he is a writer. Well, he owns like a newspaper. And this woman he's like seeing commit suicide, and he's like, that's so unlike her, what happened? So he starts investigating, and he's trying to figure out if someone killed her, if she committed suicide, what was happening. There's like the government's tied in. It's like all this stuff. And I was reading it, and like I think I took like a break from it and read a different book, and I went back to it. When is allergy season gonna stop? And I just like, I was interested-ish. Like I wanted to know what happened, but it was just dragging, and I was just like, when am I gonna get through this book? And like ebook page wise, like I read it on my phone, so like it was like 500 pages on my phone, and I was like only 300 pages in, and I was like, I cannot sit through 200 more pages of this book. I just could not do it, and I DNF'd it, and I don't think I'll ever go back to that book. Like I said, I have a physical copy. I am getting rid of my physical copy. I just don't think I care. And I was talking to my mom about this book because I actually bought this book when I was a teenager because James Patterson, and my mom was like, well, this is an adult book. Like, I don't know if you should read it. And I was like, but I want to read it. It sounds interesting. And she was like, well, let me read it first. And then it took her so long to read it, to like approve it for me, that I just never read it until now. And so I was reading it and I was telling her like, this is what was happening. And I just didn't care. And she was like, you know, I vaguely remember that. And I remember thinking, why do people like his books? So yeah. That's that. That was my DNF. Like, that was like a hard, like I was like 60 something percent through that book, which I usually do not DNF books if I'm that far through and I just decide to finish it. But that book, I'm done. I'm just not going back to it. So proud of me for finally DNFing a book and not forcing myself through it. Also proud of me for reading a manga for the first time. I had a lot of firsts this month, despite going through it. But yeah, that is everything for this video. Those are all the books I read and half read. Since I had so much going on, it was like, I feel like I still read like a lot, but also it was a slow reading month at the same time. I don't know how both of those are true, but both of those are true. Like, when I say my reading is slowed down, I have been reading a book the past 2 weeks and I'm still like not even 100 pages into it. I've been reading it for 2 weeks. Like, I just have not been reading lately. Don't know what to tell you. It is what it is. I hope life gets better soon. But yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and maybe you'll watch one of my other videos. I do have a vlog for this book, which is continuing series I'm in the middle of, and this book is briefly featured in a vlog that I'm putting out very soon, hopefully, which is my beach vacation week. And I have a couple other videos recorded that I'm hopefully gonna post soon. Like I said, I've just had so much going on, so please watch some more of my videos, and yeah, bye!